So, I've had a puppy for maybe 8, 9 weeks now. We got him while we were on a trip in out of state, and when we found him, we went to a house that said they had puppies for sale. Um, Two moms, one male dog there that wasn't neutered, and they were like, "Oh, he's the father of these puppies, but not these puppies because um, the one that we got Boomer from apparently might have hooked up with the neighbor's dog, so they don't know what breed he is, but he looks like an Australian Shepherd mix." And when we got him 2 days later, we took him to a vet because they told us that they're at least 8 weeks old, but they haven't had any shots or been seen by a vet. So we took him in, he got his first round of shots, and he has hookworm, and he had like a skin infection kind of going on. Like he had scabs all over him that were forming, and they were kind of like crusty, pussy scabs. And when I talked to her, she told me to pick them off and give him a medicated bath with Ketomax shampoo, which we did. And he hated it. He absolutely hated it. He hates baths. And we brought him home, and the vet down there told us, see your other vet in at home in 3 weeks for his next round of shots. So we set up that appointment, and when we brought him in, they were going over him, and they felt all of his lymph nodes were swollen. So while we were at that meeting, that appointment, they offered me a sign up for Trupanion for free for a month, and then you sign up once you pay again. You have it's just pet insurance. So because they found the lymph nodes swollen that appointment, Trupanion didn't cover anything regarding that because it was deemed a pre-existing condition, which sucks because it's the first time you take a puppy into a vet. The vet down south didn't have anything like that offered to us then, or we would have been fine probably. But my vet's a little fancier, I suppose. So we did blood work that day, and we did a tick panel because his mom had ticks on her. They all lived outside. They were being fed by, like, they poured a bag of dog food on the ground. Like, the bag was there, shredded open, dog food on the ground. So, and it's so hot down there and moist. That's what they were thinking the skin infection was from. So we did blood work, and it came back fine. No fever. We did a tick panel. Nothing came back. So she said, just wait. Well, in between waiting, between that and our next appointment, which was like a follow-up just to make sure that his leg was, or not his leg, just to make sure that he was fine, when my dog stepped on him. So he's limping, and we brought him back in. They felt his knees, and she thought he tore his ACL. But then she felt his other leg and was like, well, maybe not, because this one's pretty loose. So they went and they did. A vet I've seen prior checked him, and they just said, you know what, it's fine, just watch it. So they gave us painkillers. Well, while I was giving him painkillers, I noticed that every time I gave him one, he would look up at me, and he held his mouth open. He just sat there like, and it's like he was swallowing the pills whole, not chewing them or anything. And I didn't really notice anything with food. So we went in, and to our next actual appointment, in the meantime, got both my other dogs updated on everything. And when we went to the one of them was after this, but we went into the next appointment I took him into for his last round of shots, and they said that I said something about the jaw, and he wasn't really having an easy time standing. Like, he'd stand and he'd be shaking, and they thought about it for a bit, and they're like, well, it could be this, but they mentioned going to a specialist, which the closest specialist is 3 hours away. And when I called them, it ranged anywhere from $140 to over $5,000. And it's really hard because sometimes you just don't have money for this. But it's his life that matters to me. But they gave me more painkillers. Well, okay, they didn't do it at this time. They told me it could be something like rabies, or something congenital, or something neurological. They just didn't know. So, I felt like he was getting worse. I had him, I talked to them. I talked to a bunch of vets about the whole rabies possibility, and they told me if it is, it'll show and he'll go quick. Well, personality-wise, he didn't change, but he is so physically unable to do anything right now. And as it progressed, he had a harder time getting up. And my fiance took him to the vet with my other dog because I was like, this is rabies, I'm not playing. We're gonna update my other dog like a week earlier than we were supposed to. Excuse me. So we guys, we took him in with my other one, and they did blood work on him again, and they said nothing's changed. He's still okay. So they said they sent him home with antibiotics and painkillers. Again, not even painkillers. Rimadyl, it's an anti-inflammatory. So they sent him home with those and told us give it time. Tell us how he is on Monday. So over the weekend, I just felt like he was getting progressively worse when it came to his limbs. Like he could not stand for more than like a minute. When he was peeing, his back legs are shaking so much that he's peeing all over himself. When he's on the ground, he's laying on his side, and when he'd like kick himself around a bit trying to get up, like he couldn't get up. And the vet called me back on Monday, their assistant. This is kind of where I got a little upset about it. Is their assistant, and I guess I shouldn't be upset, said, how are they doing? How are both of them? And I told him, one's fine. He's an 80-pound bulldozer, and he's great. But my puppy cannot stand up. Like, he's barely walking, because he can walk, but he's only getting up to do things like water. He tries to go outside and go potty. I'm like spoon feeding him because it's so hard for him to stand. We switched to dry, like wet food, so it was easier. And she just told me, well, if the vet feels like any of this information isn't like if she needs to call you back with this information you've given me, she will be in contact with you. And they never called me back. I'm like, my dog can't stand. And I get it, where they're telling me the only thing that they can do now is tell me to go to a specialist. So I spent like a couple days just upset. I didn't know what to do. So yesterday, on advice from a friend from work, I went to her vet for a second opinion. And when we got in there, they told us, like, everything your other vet was doing is correct. But he's in an immense amount of pain, which before my other vet was like, well, he doesn't seem like he's in any pain, because they're like turning his head, looking at his teeth. He wasn't having any of it. And it just makes me feel bad to know that he's been hurting. And it basically came down to, we think the only thing that on the top of her head she could think of is meningitis, which I've never heard of in a dog, I guess, So she told me, we'll give you, we can take him or send him home, and they're going to suppress his immune system, give him steroids, put him on, like, better painkillers, keep him on his antibiotics, and they could keep him there and do an IV and whatever they need to do to make sure that he's hydrated and, you know, keeping him there overnight, which was just something they could do. You know, they told me I could send him home with my, like, I could go home with him, but he might have, going from steroids, from Rimadyl to steroids might give him stomach ulcers, so they were putting him on medication for that. And I asked, you know, could he die from treatment? And they said absolutely. But I feel like my only other option was to put him to sleep. And there are people who will probably get mad at me and say, you just need to let him go. But it's like, if what he's fighting so much, like, he's been fighting so hard, and I don't want to give up on him unless I have to. Or unless he tells me, like, you know? So, he's at the vet right now. He had a first fever. The first fever he's had was recorded last night. So, they told me this morning that his fever broke. And that, he ate like a champ. And his body's less shaky this morning, and they gave him something for his muscles. And now all we can do is kind of wait and see. And she told me last night, you know, if this doesn't go well, if this doesn't turn out any better, we need to revisit the euthanization conversation. So I'm praying that this is what gonna help him. And that this is gonna make him better. Because he's just a puppy. And he hasn't had enough time. You know, like, I don't know how much time is enough time, but, like, he hasn't got to experience a lot of things. And I brought him from a place where he lived outside with no people, and he was always exposed to the elements, and I brought him home where his thicker coat probably feels a lot better up north, and there's always someone to love on him, and we went for walks and everything, and I think I gave him a good life, but I want to do more. So I don't know if anyone else has ever been through anything like this with a dog, but if you have, it would be so cool to know how it went, and for some positive vibes our way, because they'll call me back later tonight and make plans, I think, for me to go get him tomorrow. And I just really want a miracle right now. So, yeah, let me know if you've ever had to deal with something like this. And thank you.